Welcome back. So what I have here is basically the Pokeball that is going to be textured. So I'm going to go to Photoshop and I'm going to open the file that I have created. So I'm gonna go File, Open, and this one is going to be on my desktop. Source Images and UVMap. So this is the place that I'm going to be saving my texture in. I'm going to show you the complicated workflow just in case you don't have Photoshop or you're trying to do this in GIMP or something else. So first off, this is a single layer that is going to contain my map, but it's really hard to see. And what I want to is create a new layer, and then this is going to be my background layer. So I'm just going to call it back. I want to choose a color that is going to be contrasting to everything that I'm going to have on the front, so probably a black is a good idea, but also taking account that black is going to be part of the model here, so chances are that you want to work with something a little bit different. In this case, I'm going to go with a darker green because nothing in my Pokeball is going to be green, at least not at this point. So I'm going to select that and I'm just going to paint this. Actually, let's do a smart move and do a dark blue because these lines are green, so there's not going to be a lot of contrast if I had that. I'm going to rename these UV map, and now it's time to start selecting these shells. So the complicated process, I should say, is going to be choosing everything that is inside of these parts. I can pretty much just go in here and start painting them. So I'm gonna make another one and I'm gonna put it right down below that layer, and let's say that I want to work with something that is super red, so something like that. I can easily just go in here and paint it. Doesn't really matter that much at this point that I get out of the shell, because I can erase that. Larger. Working with a drawing tablet in here is going to be a little bit better. I'll do that in the next following videos, but for now, just working with the mouse is perfectly acceptable. And the other reason I don't need to be that precise is because I can actually just make another layer, and then this layer is going to be like my white part, and I can just paint my objects here. So pretty simple. I'm making this texture. This is not the best texture possible, by the way. I'm gonna have to do some other things in here as well, but for now I'm just gonna give you a quick heads up on how to do this sort of workflow. Now the other part that is going to be white is going to be here, so I'm just gonna take these. I'm gonna make my brush smaller so I don't have to erase that much afterwards. So all of these parts, painting it, and painting it. I'm actually missing a part here. And there you go. Now the last one is going to be my black color, and this one is going to be black. So I'm in the last layer. Now I need to paint these black. Oh, this is a super rough way of doing it. In a second, I'm going to show you the other workflow that is going to speed things up a little bit, but I just want to show you different methods in case you don't have access to Photoshop and your software is a little bit different than mine. So one thing that is going to be really important for me right now is going to be to hide the UV map, because if I don't, those green lines are going to stay. This is basically the texture that you're going to have. As you can see, it's pretty horrible and it's not really that well done or thought through, but for now this is a good way of just creating a super basic simple texture. This is going to go to my file and I'm gonna go save as. This is going to be on the source. I can work with a Photoshop file, but for now I just want to work with a PNG image, which might have an issue inside of Maya. Not always happens, but I'm gonna show you what to do if it does. So this one is going to be my Pokeball underscore BC as in base color, and I'm gonna hit save. So with that, it's asking me the PNG file format in my other monitor, so I'm gonna go back here, and now what I'm going to do is do another incremental save. File save and save incremental incremental. Now this is going to be 8. What I'm going to do is create a new material, and I'll go here to say, let's choose a bling, so I can have some specular highlights and I can work with a new texture later. This is going to be my T Pokeball. And I'll click on this checkerboard so I can apply a texture onto it. This texture is going to be the file that I just created, and that file is going to be my T Pokeball base color. So there you go. Now this is a single render call, and as you can see, it looks a lot like the one that I had before. The only difference being that now this part is reflecting some specular highlights. I can work with a specular map. I think that's actually what I'm going to be doing in just a minute to show you the difference. This is like a super rough version of how to create a Pokeball. So what are the advantages here? Well, first of all, if I wanted to write my name on top of these, I wouldn't be able to do that with just these many quads. So it's not a matter of just changing the material that I have over here. The second is the most obvious. I don't have many different render calls on this Pokeball. This is coming from a single render call. Everything is just looked at the texture. It's basically, the render is basically just going here and saying, hey, what is this color going to be for this particular part? Well, let's take a look at the texture. It's gonna go find the map. It's gonna get the association of this quad is red, then this squad is black, and so forth, and everything is happening inside of a single render call, which is really more efficient than just working with different materials. Technically speaking, I can associate one material, a different material per face, and that would work, but that is going to be, you know, if I was going that route for different materials, 1198 render calls, which is really silly thinking that I can do it in a single one. But as you can see, again, I don't have exactly the same result because the material or the shader is not exactly the same. See, this shader is reflecting some specular highlights, and I can do something really simple in here. My specular highlights are going to be coming from black and white texture. So if I hide these guys and I just say, well, black is the one that is not going to be reflecting anything, I can make another layer and I can put it down here and say, hey, this layer is going to be completely white. So let me flood this influence. Now this is what it's going to look like. The more white it is, the more light is going to be reflected. The more black it is, the more light is not going to be reflecting. So I'm going to go File, Save As, and in this case I want to save that also as a PNG, and this is going to be my S for specular, and I'm gonna go back to Maya, and now what I'm going to do is apply these things. So I can only apply a specular if I'm working with a bling, so Lambert doesn't have that option. I'm gonna go to my specular color, click on the checkerboard. Once again, I will select a file, and set file is going to be the file that I just created, which is going to be the specular. And now, as you can see, it is reflecting the light. I can modify this specular value as much as I want. I can do it in Engine, or I can do it in Maya, or I can do it in the texture. So it really depends on what is your preference. So this is a way of doing the Pokeball. This is a really simple texture. The next video, I'm going to show you a different workflow that Maya has whenever you have Photoshop installed in your computer. So I'm gonna save an increment. Remember, always save incremental. It's gonna be really helpful for you later. But as I was saying, Maya has a really cool workflow that lets you do a more direct route if you have Photoshop already in your computer. So that is what I'm going to be doing.